As we wait for the migration of warblers and other songbirds, this is a great time of the year to see waterfowl. You can find certain shallow ponds and puddles just full of mallards, but they need to be less than 16 inches deep so these dabblers can reach the plants. Other shallow ponds and lakes are full of ringneck ducks, who actually dive for vegetation, but they don't want to dive more than 6 feet. This is also time of year to see the migrating buffleheads and shovelers. Migration also brought a short-eared owl to our neighborhood. I don't think anyone has seen one in our county in several years. I was surprised to see this owl hunting over the retention pond and small wetland of a new housing development. There were actually 2 owls, but I only got a quick look at the second one. This guy flew right over my head, but I didn't have the right setting and overexposed the pictures. He disappeared for about 15 minutes and I changed locations, only to spot him right where I'd been. These are my favorite owls with their gigantic wings and moth-like flight pattern, but I've never been able to get a good photo of one. The next night I returned a little before dark, but I had just missed him. Another photographer showed me some great photos he had just got. Mid-March to early April is also wild turkey breeding season. Peak gobbling and strutting activities are taking place now. Toms will puff up their feathers, spread their tails, and drag their wings to attract females. Later in the video, you can see a couple toms do a little chest bumping. When things get real heated, they will also engage in neck wrapping and even interlocking beaks. Some of these behaviors take place year-round to establish social hierarchy, but they are more prevalent right now as the hens are receptive to breeding and only the dominant tom will breed. Usually a ratio of about 1 tom breeding with 8 to 14 hens. As you probably noticed, the hens do a lot of scratching the ground. They may be foraging for insects or seeds, or just kicking up dust for dust bathing to help clean their feathers and skin and remove parasites. Turkeys also look for small stones to help with digestion. After watching the turkeys, Lucas returned for one last check on the short ear, but there had been a south wind and I believe he was gone. He had to settle for a killdeer and an eagle. Now to one of the stars of this episode. It's not the recently arrived wood duck, or even the blue-winged teal. Is it the American pipit? No, although they are a somewhat rare shorebird since they make their home in the tundra and can only be seen during migration. They are much too drab to be a star. It's a much more rare visitor. It is the striking reddish-brown cinnamon teal. They are one of the least common dabbling ducks, and the only one to not breed in the mid-continent prairie. They are a western bird, so finding one in Minnesota is rare. This guy was hanging out with the many other ducks in a small pond that was surrounded by farm fields. Their non-breeding plumage is much more boring, but this duck was striking, even on a cloudy day. It took a little work with binoculars to locate him, but he pretty much stayed with the green-winged and blue-winged teal and avoided the ringneck ducks. This was our first time ever photographing the cinnamon teal. We captured him next to green-winged teal and blue-winged teal. Their bill is slightly longer and wider than the other teal. Cinnamon teal are unique because there is an entirely separate population of them in the Andes Mountains of South America. Besides the teal, this pond also had a smattering of many other ducks, including hooded mergansers and this regal gadwall. On our way back home, we drove by a lake completely packed with divers. I pulled over for a few quick photos. We had been wanting to see canvasbacks, as this was the final duck we needed for the year. There were tons of canvasbacks. They are easy to spot because they are the largest diving duck and have a sloping forehead. But they are often hunted, so they are pretty wary and don't usually let you get close with a camera. They can dive up to 30 feet deep, using their strong back feet to propel themselves. Traveling further north, we spotted a few puddles with common mergansers and great blue herons, who have all just shown up in the last week. The end of March brought a couple inches of wet snow, which didn't stick long, but I ventured out into it to the Crowhasson because Lucas had seen bluebirds there a few days earlier. A couple had already paired up and were hanging out close to one of the nest boxes. They will start looking for nesting materials soon. Mountain bluebirds usually hover in place when hunting, where eastern bluebirds usually drop hunt from a perch. This day was so windy and these birds were so excited that they did a little hovering, and at one point the male even landed on the female. I was able to get some great shots of them, and they didn't seem bothered by the snow. Some northern flickers also migrate, and I believe they also have just arrived. This bird was hanging out right next to the bluebirds. I went to Pelican Lake later that day and I seen 5 flickers and 10 bluebirds all along the shore. Before leaving the Crowhasson, I spotted a fox sparrow, a tree full of rusty blackbirds, and a hermit thrush that didn't want his picture taken. Later on at Pelican Lake, I spent most of my time watching this muskrat because all the ducks were too far away to photograph. Despite the snow and cold, spring has definitely sprung.